Good morning and welcome to the first of our three sessions, Aging with Grace Towards a Healthier You. I'm excited that all of you are here today, and before we get started, I want to put a special recognition out for Mr. Tom Glenn, who is recording the sessions, so that if several people have said they're out of town or have conflicts, and they will be available on the church website after the sessions. And we hope you'll be able to join us in person, but if not, we'll have an opportunity to review things afterwards. We have two experts today. Our first speaker is Dr. Kurt Kendall, who is the professor and chair of physical therapy at Anderson University. And without further ado, I'll turn the program over to him. Thank you very much for coming and speaking with us.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm excited to be here. So Roseanne, we actually ran into each other. Our students did a pickleball fundraiser, and so Roseanne was there, and she said, well, can I get your email? And we got an email, and, I ended up here. So that's how things kind of work out. I don't know if this is cutting in or out, or is that okay? But anyway, I'll briefly just talk about me a little bit. So two things. I am not a native South Carolinian, okay? I came from Pennsylvania. I moved here, yes. So I moved here in 2018 with my family. I'm also not a Presbyterian, so I apologize for that. I don't know if that's a requirement, but anyway. I have been a physical therapist for 22 years, and I've been teaching for about 15 of those 22 years. And so I've had the privilege of not just working on patients and individuals, but also then, hopefully educating students and individuals who will be working on many, many more. So, again, I'm excited to be here, and I'm going to talk about balance. Just a little disclaimer, you are not going to walk out of here with good balance, just like that. I'm not going to fix any problems. So if that's what you came for necessarily, let's lower the expectations. I wish I could do that, but it is a process, much like life. And so I just want to talk about the process of balance so that we can understand it. And if we understand it, then we can help to address it in some way. So a couple things that, my goal for this morning that we're going to try to get out of this is I want you to understand what the components of balance are. Because when we say balance, that means something in your head, but as a healthcare practitioner, I think of very different aspects of balance and how we can address each of those. I want you to understand how we can address or manipulate different components of balance, because that depends on how we kind of treat it. And then I just want to think about the importance of balance for overall health. Balance is really, really important in life. You probably know that. And there are 2 points in life where our balance is really, really bad. Okay? When we come out of the womb, right? And when we get at the end stage of life. Okay? Usually when we're in our 30s to 50s, balance doesn't seem to be all that big of a problem, but look at a 9-month-old and watch them walk, and they're, right, like this. And sometimes look at a 95-year-old and watch them walk, right? And so, balance is one of those interesting, just unique things about us and how it changes. So why should we talk about balance? Well, the one thing is, as an educator, we like to say and found what we do in research. And so, here's a great research article, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. But the reason we should talk about balance is because research shows about 30% of people over the age of 60 experience a fall in a given year. Is anyone here over 60? I'm just going to take a guess that maybe one of you is, okay? But if you're over 60, again, about 1 in 3 of you, on average, will experience a fall. And sometimes one fall isn't that bad, but sometimes a fall can be catastrophic, right? Sometimes a fall can lead to bigger and much worse things, right? You've heard, breaking a hip, fracturing an ankle, doing something like that. So, it's not so much the fall we want to prevent, but it's the danger or the injury that comes from that. And so, again, my job, I hope today, is just to help to educate you on the things that go into this balance. Now, the good news is moderate reductions in falls risk have been seen in older adults. Again, I don't know, is anyone here considered an older adult? Maybe. After interventions, after treatments, after exercises, things like strength, balance, aerobic exercises, okay? And so I know later today you're going to learn about some flexibility. In a couple weeks you're going to hear, I think, about some other types of, health and exercise. But all of them can contribute to balance, which is a really good thing. And so let me kind of delve into, what balance is. Here's a definition, and for me, most students, they don't care about a definition, but I just want to make sure we're on the same page when we say balance. So the ability to align our body segments, anything, arms, legs, trunk, whatever, against gravity within our base of support. Our base of support, right now, your base of support is the chair you're sitting on, and that makes it pretty stable, right? When you stand up, your base of support now is these two legs. And when you walk, believe it or not, your base of support becomes one leg because one of them's in the air. And so that base of support narrows quite a bit. And so the key is to keep that all stable without falling, right? So that's our definition. As a healthcare practitioner, it's a complex motor task. I want you to understand that it is not something that is easy or basic. It is so complex. That's why it takes those little babies so long till they really get good at it, okay? An average child cannot walk what we call normally till about 3 years of age. So they have 3 years of practice until they get really good at it. So, it's no wonder that it's not something that just comes and goes with the snap of a finger. But it is an interaction. Everyone always thinks balance is just, they think it's just in my head, or they just think it's one knee or something like that. It is so complex because it is both the nervous, so think brain, spinal cord. If you have if you've had a stroke, or someone who had a stroke, they probably have decreased balance, right? Parkinson's disease, that's a neurological problem, balance issues. But on the other hand, you could sprain an ankle tomorrow, and that can turn into a balance issue, right? So it's so complex. And so it's really a combination of 3 major systems that give us what we call good balance, okay? So what are those systems? Number 1, visual, okay? We use our eyes for balance. Our visual system contributes to balance. Believe it or not, individuals that have worse vision tend to have worse balance. And so we're going to talk in a couple slides about what can we do to work on that aspect. Vestibular. How many of you have ever had, we call it vertigo or something like that, right? You've had that feeling where, obviously, the vestibular system, it's kind of like the air we breathe. When we're doing it and it's working well, we don't even notice it, right? But the one day or the 1 week or whatever that our vestibular system isn't, and if you've ever had vertigo and you feel like the room is spinning, and it's not because of something you drank or ingested or something like that, I'm talking true vertigo, it is a horrible, horrible feeling, right? And so that contributes to our balance, and we don't even recognize that one. And then the last one is, again, I'm using big words here, but somatosensory, otherwise known as proprioception. So this is the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, the joints that give me all of this sensation of balance. How else can you, whenever you're not using your vision or whatever, how can you know how to balance yourself? Because you're relying on input from all of those muscles, tendons, ligaments, joints. And that's something that we really, really want to work on. That's something we really, really want to make sure is top-notch. So I'm going to talk about each of one of these and say, how can we manipulate? How can we play around with? How can we strengthen these systems for balance. So, I look at I love football and I love sports, and so it always requires strategy. Okay, well, we're going to put our quarterback here, our running back here, our wide receiver here, and that's almost how we have to attack balance. When you see someone, again, maybe it's a physical therapist or a trainer or someone that wants to work on balance, there has to be a game plan. Like, well, I'm not just going to have you stand on top of a table on one leg with your eyes closed and do that. There has to be a game plan of how to progress and how to manipulate these components of balance. So let's think about vision. It's a pretty straightforward, how can we manipulate vision with balance? Well, we can literally, I'm seeing some of you do it. Close your eyes, right? Maybe I was just getting boring and you got a little tired. I don't know. But we have people close their eyes. Now, you might say, all right, buddy, I can tell you what, I keep my eyes open all the time, so why do I need to practice this? And I'm going to ask you, and I'm in my upper 40s, and I don't know about you, but I get up every night because I have to go to the bathroom. And I mean, does anyone sleep with the lights on? Because I don't. And I can tell you, what's it like at 3 a.m.? It's pitch black. So I can't rely on my vision for balance. Okay? Sometimes I'm feeling around for things, but besides that, I'm relying on my vestibular system, and I'm relying on my proprioception, my muscles, joints, ligaments, everything like that. So when I practice balance, if I close my eyes, it's not because I'm going to live life with my eyes closed. It's because there's times in life where I'm not going to be able to see the things around me. It's going to be dark. Maybe it's going to be 10 o'clock at night outside, and I have to walk out to the garbage cans, right? And so I can't rely. So, I mean, what the take-home message here is I have to practice that, okay? Practice makes perfect. You've heard that one before. So we need to practice at times. What's that mean for you? Whenever I show you some of these exercises or some things to practice on, one of them is going to be like, I want you to do it with your eyes closed. I want you, because I can tell you, I mean, even me, who I feel like is, fairly in shape, if I stand on one leg and I look at you, I'm not doing too bad. And the moment I close my eyes, I start to get wobbly. What's the only thing I changed? Vision. Okay? So, vision is something that we depend on, and vision is something that we can change and manipulate. Vestibular. Okay, how do we manipulate this? How do we control for this with balance? Well, we can't, again, your vestibular system is your inner ear. You've heard of that, right? We can't go in there and do anything. But what that inner ear tends to notice or sense is head motions. Okay? It's the reason you feel like you're spinning. So the things that we do to try to manipulate this is, I'll have patients and I'll have them standing and we just do head movements. Back and forth. And that makes that vestibular system get all kinds of different input. Now, I'm not trying to make you sick. I'm not trying to make a problem, but I'm trying to make it work harder. Okay? So we do things like head movements. So now it maybe becomes an exercise where now I'm going to stand on one leg. Instead of closing my eyes, now I'm just going to turn my head back and forth or up and down. And again, I don't know if you noticed, already that becomes more difficult for me. Okay? Whenever we're walking with people, we'll walk and we have them turn around quickly. I mean, do you ever have to do that? I'm guessing you do. I mean, have you ever gone to the grocery store, or have you ever gone to a public setting and sometimes you have to make some quick movements, right? You have to respond and react. And how many of you have a pet? Okay? Does that pet always do every single thing? No. You've got a dog or a cat, and all of a sudden it jumps in front of you, and you have to respond and react, right? And unfortunately, a lot of times that causes a fall. So how can we prevent that fall? We have to practice it. We have to practice it. So again, that's our vestibular system. And then the last of the three is, again, this somatosensory or proprioception. So how do we manipulate this? Well, again, we've said, we can do things like standing or whatever, but a big thing we do is we try to change the surface that we're on. Okay? So Have you found it's much harder to walk in your lawn or in your grass than it is maybe on a hard tile floor? Sometimes maybe if your backyard has a little bit of a slant, it's a little harder to be on that than it is. And so it's the surface that we're on. And so for balance, what we do when we're training someone, we're putting them on what we call a malleable surface. Because not that I want you to be able to necessarily do that day in and day out, but if you can do that, you know what you can do really well? You can stand in your kitchen. You can stand in your garage usually without a big problem. So it's all about challenging. And so when it comes to balance, what we want to work on intensity. Okay? So, how many of you have grandkids or kids at all, right? I bet a lot. So when they first went to maybe kindergarten or something, they learned probably their ABCs and their alphabet, right? Would you be, I guess, excited if that is also how they graduated high school? Like, here is my son, he graduated high school, he knows his alphabet, right? You'd be like, that's ridiculous. Why? Because you expect them to continue to challenge themselves. You're like, no, this is my son who has a high school diploma, who passed 4 AP exams and is now going to college, right? They continue to challenge themselves. Well, the same is with training. Like, we have to challenge ourselves. And so I'm going to give you some examples of how we do this really easily, but in balance we get frustrated. We don't know. So, like, if you're trying to strengthen, how do you know if you're getting stronger? If you're doing a bicep curl, how do you know if you're getting stronger day in and day out? Well, here was a 3-pound weight. What do? You go to a 4-pound weight. You go to a 5-pound weight, right? So with strength training, okay, you're getting stronger. We know that. The intensity is easy to measure. What about with endurance training? You're walking or riding a bike or something like that. Well, you always see those heart rate things that tell you, well, my heart rate didn't go up as much, but I did the same thing. I must be getting better. I'm improving. Or I was able to walk farther today than I did a week ago. I got better. That's easy. With flexibility, I think we know, that's all I can go right there. But then 2 weeks later, look how much farther I went. I've made improvements. But balance is tough. How do we know if someone got better? How do we know if they went from their alphabet to a college degree? And so again, I'm going to go back to what does research say? What are the experts in the field saying? And the thing they're saying is we have to challenge people with balance. Okay? And so I think what happens sometimes is people say, I'm going to work on my balance, and so they grab a chair and they hold on really tightly, okay? And they might lift a leg and they say, I'm working on balance. And it's like, well, are you really challenging yourself? Because look how much you're holding on to that chair, right? And so what they did in this research article is, now, notice they had a harness on these people. They had them walk on a treadmill, and then they changed the treadmill without the people knowing. And these people would fall. Now, they had a harness. But they showed that they got better and better at balance. And so I'm not saying that you need to go put on a harness, but what this article showed was they called that perturbation training, okay? People were pushed. They were knocked off balance. That's a really good way to get better at balance. So what does that mean? I want you to know that, you don't certainly have to, but there is a way to get better, and that is sometimes by doing therapy. So when you do therapy, someone is going to challenge you beyond what you can challenge yourself. They're going to take you from your ABCs to a higher level, and they're going to do it in a way that you don't fall and get injured. Now, I'm not saying that's the only way, but I just want you to know that is a way that sometimes we have to challenge ourselves. I'm going to show you a couple other ways for you to do some things Again, but it always has to fall under safety. So this scale here is kind of a scale for balance, okay? And notice up there in the white, you are completely stable, right? We move to green and you're like, you may have some body movements, but you don't really feel unsteady. And you continue to move down. That example that I just showed you with the people in the harness on the treadmill, they were down here. Okay? So they challenged themselves at a really high level and they got better at balance. Now, I'm not saying you have to be there, but what I'm saying is if you always stay in the white and green, the balance isn't going to necessarily improve a whole lot. Okay? So there has to be challenge there. So what we're going to talk about today, we have to get ready for it. We have to balance challenge and we have to balance safety together. Okay? So what we really want to be is we kind of want to be in this region where it's like, I feel like I maybe have to take a step or I maybe have to challenge myself in some way. I certainly don't want you this far, but we can't just say, you know what, I'm gonna hold on to this for dear life and now I'm working on balance because it's probably not going to get a whole lot better. Okay? So, again, a couple of stipulations here. Safety, okay? Does anyone here want to fall? I hope not. And so what we do is we say, let's put kind of a hedge of protection around us, but yet you still might feel a little unsteady. That's kind of the game plan, okay? A hedge of protection, but yet you feel unsteady. And so what's the hedge of protection? Maybe it's a counter. Maybe it is a chair. One of the best places to do something like this is in a corner in your house. Okay, now you're going to have to, what most of y'all probably have in a corner is you probably have, a grandfather clock or you've got a chair or something like that. So sometimes you need to be able to access a corner. But if you could go into a corner, now you've got a wall on two sides of you, and then you put a chair right in the middle, and you just created a hedge of protection so that then you're not going to fall. But then you could do some of these, eyes closed, one leg or whatever, and you can challenge yourself. Or the other thing is, grab a spouse, grab a caregiver, and say, can you help me with my balance exercises? Can you stand beside me for 15 minutes or 10 minutes while I do some of these? And then you've got someone else right there. Okay? So, counters and chairs, those are the things that can protect us and keep us safe. But again, I'm going to say what we need to do, though, is we need to create a challenge. And so, what does that look like? Because you might say, well, I don't have all those fancy things. I literally will have patients sometimes, or family members, I'll say, hey, Mom, I'm going to stand right here, but I want you to stand on a pillow. And you know how difficult that can get. And I don't expect my mom to walk on pillows, but if she can stand on a pillow, you know how easy this kind of a surface comes? Pretty good. Okay? So, start out with just some basics and then continue to progress. Okay? Remember, what are the three things that I said that we can use to manipulate balance? What's the first thing? Vision, right? So, maybe start with standing. Again, you're in a safe place, someone's beside you or something like that, and you might just close your eyes and ask yourself, is that really hard? On that scale from 0 to 10, what is it? If it's only a 0 or a 1, okay, we need to make it more difficult, right? But for some of you, that might be a 5. You might say, I feel really, really unsteady. Okay, that's a good thing. Let's do that. Let's do it for a minute. Try to do your eyes closed, and you might feel wavering, but you've got someone there, or you've got a wall right there, and it's keeping you safe. It's challenging you, okay? Then what might you do? Remember, this is our base of support. 2 legs, now move to 1 leg. And now all of a sudden, again, right now, on my scale, 0 to 10, this is probably maybe a 1, or a 2. But for some of you, this might be a 6 or a 7. And so, but you've got someone there beside you, you've got a wall, whatever. You're making it very challenging, and you're going to just do it repetitively. Then let's remove the vision. Okay? Because again, even for me now, one leg, eyes closed, that jumps me from about a 2 down to about a 5 on that 0 to 10 scale. Okay? I don't feel like I'm going to fall, but I feel unsteady. Okay? So do you see how I continue to make it harder and harder for myself? And then last, I change the surface that I'm on. Okay? So again, maybe it's, I put down a pillow or I put down a blanket or something that's a little bit more malleable. And I don't have something here to show that, but I can tell you, if I was on a pillow on one leg with my eyes closed, that would take my scale from a 0 to 10, that would probably take me to about an 8 or a 9. So do you see how quickly I made that difficult for myself? And I challenged myself. Okay? But always safety first. Okay? I'm not going to do those things if there's a possibility that I could fall. So I think what happens, and this is what happens again. My dad is 80. My mom is 76. And so, we have these conversations sometimes. I want them to be safe, but I also don't want them to quit doing anything, right? And maybe you've had these conversations with kids, grandkids, I don't know. My dad, he runs a small farm. So he's getting on and off of a tractor and everything like that. And frankly, I say, good for him, right? That's actually what is keeping him going at 80 years old. Now, what I don't want him doing is I don't want him walking on a beam in the barn up in the haymow or something like that. So there's that balance, is there not? And so sometimes you have to have that conversation with your loved ones of like, I need to stay active, but I need to stay safe. And you work out a plan. And maybe it is, let's do some of these things where someone is beside me, or I'm in a location, or maybe it's I'm going to therapy, or I'm doing, something to be trained with this. But I'm doing it in a safe way, okay? And so, again, just to summarize this, I don't know where I am with time, well, okay. A complex system, vision, vestibular, somatosensory, we talked about those. And at the end of the day, we need to challenge our system, but I want you to do it safely. What I don't want to hear is I don't want to get an email like, hey, Dr. Kindle, I tried that and I fell. I'm like, don't put yourself in a position to fall, okay? Certainly not. I mean, are you going to experience a fall? Research says yes. Some of you are going to experience a fall. I don't want the fall to happen when you're practicing balance exercises. If there's a fall, it's going to be just generally happening because your dog ran out in front of you when you were walking across the yard. And, let's hope that it's... But the good thing is, research shows with practice, when that dog runs across the yard, you might actually catch yourself rather than fall. Okay? So, I appreciate your time. Are there any questions or anything that I can try to answer for you? Yes, ma'am. Yep. 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 Yes. So, again, the connection there is the vestibular system. And so, when that vestibular system with motion, it can be disrupted. Because, again, I'm not sure what you know about the vestibular system, but we have fluid in our inner ear, and that's what controls our balance. When we're going forward, that fluid is moving, and when we're turning, that fluid is moving. And so it tells us, well, when we've done something and we're motion sick, that has disrupted that. And that's what makes you feel like you're spinning or you're sick. If you get that a lot or whatever, that's a problem with the vestibular system. Yeah, that's too bad. Yes. And so that's a thing where, that's where you need to go to see essentially an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat doctor, to probably have that investigated, because I can't tell you, what is going on or how to fix that, because there's so many different possibilities there. But yes, is there a correlation or a connection between those two? Absolutely. So, yes. Question?
If you're going into a fall, is there a better way to fall?
Yeah, good question. So if you're going to fall, how do we do it, right? Well, the couple things you want to do is, first off, you want to try to cushion in some way. So, we tend to use our hands or arms to some degree. But the other thing we want to do is we want to try to give, if I go to fall and I land on a straight arm and it's very stiff and rough, chances are, okay, I didn't break a hip, yay, but I did break my wrist, right? Broken wrist is a very common thing. So the one thing we do want to do is we want to try to cushion that. Okay, so we want to absorb that impact, and then honestly, kind of a funny thing is almost rolling into it. If you know you're going to go, okay, rather than splat, if you can almost kind of go and roll into it to some degree, it can absorb that a little bit more. But there's no way to predict how you're going to be falling. So that's a difficult answer, for a it is it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's kind of like when you're driving. If you've ever had a car wreck, right? You know you're going to wreck, but do I want to hit this or that, right? Do I want, it's almost like I know I'm going, and what do I want to land on, And again, I would say try to protect the hips, because even if you do break a wrist, that's still a lot better than a hip. So try to cushion whenever you can, and try to give or roll into it to try to absorb anything that you can. Yes. Yep. Other questions? You're welcome. Sorry. I went a little later. I get talking and they can't shut me up.
Kendall, what he didn't tell you at the pickleball, I had told him he needed a senior division age 25 and above. 95% were college students.
They were very young.
So thank you. Our next expert is Kathy Roser, who is a certified yoga instructor. Kathy has, she's regular, teaches classes both here and at the Anderson YMCA. She has taught at Anderson University with the Lifelong Living, as well as a course in Greenville. And if you've not been to one of her classes, you have missed something very special. But we are delighted to have her talk to us about flexibility.
I'm new at this speaker thing, so bear with me. Wow. Thank you. That was enlightening. But I also realized that I'm here to talk about flexibility, and you can hardly separate the two, can you? I think there's going to be a little bit of crossover there. But I'd like to start just by sharing with you what I believe. We were born to enjoy life, a life that is active, vibrant and filled with joy. So embracing the whole person approach to health quenches the need for the body, the mind, and the spirit. I believe that by making a few small changes in our daily routines, we can enjoy better health, more happiness, and a more fulfilling life. So flexibility. Well, let's start with the definition of flexibility. It's the quality of bending easily without breaking. Sounds easy. The average person probably gets stiffer with age. I believe it's mainly because we stop doing the things, those daily activities and tasks that keep us flexible. Just stop and think of maybe something that you used to do that was fun, that you enjoyed, but you don't do it anymore. Maybe it's swinging a golf club or a tennis racket, working in your garden. Do you get somebody to come pull your weeds now? Or do you? We all get there eventually, but by stopping those tasks, we're also not enjoying life as much, and we kind of miss those things. So each of us is designed differently. Some of us can touch our toes, while others never will. Your joints, your muscles, your connective tissue is designed just for you. If you read Psalms 139, for you created my innermost parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will give you thanks because I am awesomely and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. Being flexible, because I am a yoga instructor, being flexible is not a requirement for yoga. You only need the desire to move and explore the possibilities to become more active. Our bodies need to warm up properly, especially if you're experiencing chronic pain or arthritic changes in the joints. So I think we've been sitting quite a while now, so we're going to warm up together. I see that the chairs are very close together. That's fine if you're comfortable with that. Check your space around you. And if you're comfortable, stand up. You've been sitting for a while. If you feel unstable in any way, just walk beside your chair, stand beside your chair so that a hand can hold on to that chair. Otherwise, and don't hesitate to move if you change your mind. Let's just do a little warm up together. And we're going to start by just stepping and tapping with the other toe. And step and tap. And step and tap. Step, tap, step, tap. Good. Hold on if you need to. Yeah, maybe you can step a little wider. Can you? Step, tap. You start to move your knees a little bit. There you go. Step, tap. You can move your arms if it feels good. Good job. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Walk it out. Just stand there and walk it out. And have a seat. In yoga, we call it sitting sweet. It translates to Sukhasana, which is an ancient Sanskrit word that means sit sweet. And for me, that means sitting forward in the chair. Charlotte, my number one yogi, sitting forward in your chair. And then as you sit comfortably, you have a back on your chair. You can use that chair back if you like for support. Maybe you need it, maybe you don't. And look at your feet. Both feet flat, about hip width apart. And then wiggle around. Can you find those sit bones? Yep. They'll find their way down to the seat of the chair. Good. Palms resting on your thighs. And then let's just all take a big breath in and out through the mouth. Again, in through the nose. and out. How does it feel to just sit comfortably, softly? Once you've made the effort to sit, maybe you can find some ease and sitting with a tall posture. So we have to talk about the spine. The spine and the mobility of the spine. It's fundamental, and it becomes even more important for us to take not good care of it, but great care of our spines as we age. The spine moves in 5 different ways. Joseph Pilates said, "You're only as old as your spine is flexible." He said, "You're only as old as your spine is flexible." So, according to the yoga tradition, the spine is both structural and the energy center of the body. And we're going to practice moving our spines in those 5 different directions. And just explore and see how it feels. Move only as you feel safe. So sitting, the spine can move forward and back. And in our everyday lives and our everyday tasks, we need to bend forward, and sometimes we need to bend back. So sit sweet, palms on your knees with your arms fully extended if possible, and just kind of wiggle around and find those sit bones again. And now you're really rooting down into that chair, being very stable. And as you breathe in through the nose, can you lift your heart, lift your gaze, look up, a little bit of a back bend, and let's roll forward. Chin rolls down to the chest, rounding the back gently, forward bending. Let's try again. Breathe in, lift your heart, look up. Breathe out, round forward. One more breath in and just sit tall. Good. So the other way that the spine likes to move is laterally. We kind of bend sideways. I wish I had a spine with me. So let's start first without, due to limited space. Just put your fingertips on your shoulders and take your wings wide for me. Good. And those fingertips just lightly resting. As you breathe in, can you lift the spine tall, which is another way that it moves. And then as you breathe out, just gently let that left elbow dip, but let the right elbow fall back. Good. Come back to center. And let's try the other side. Yeah, let that top elbow fall back. And come back to center. And one more time. In yoga, we add the breath. Inhale. And exhale. And inhale, come back to center. Good. So we've moved the spine by forward bending and back bending, and we've moved the spine side to side. So another way that the spine likes to move is axially. So you can actually, like a telescope, lift your spine. So we're going to pick some apples. Actually, let's pick peaches. It's getting closer. So let's start just by reaching up with one hand and pick a peach. And then reach with the other hand and pick another peach. And keep reaching and picking. Can you feel your hips anchored down, rooting down into the chair as you lift and reach? Both hands, reach up. Can you hold that space in your spine and just bring the arms down? Good. Do you feel a little taller, maybe? Right hand. Wave to me. Good. Take that right hand on the outside of the left thigh. Left hand reaches back to hold on to the chair. And let's breathe in and lift that spine tall. And this time as you exhale, just gently turn to your left. Good. Inhale, let's come back to center and release the hands. Left hand reaches to the outside. Right hand behind you. Breathe in and lengthen. And as you exhale, gently twist. Very gentle. And release. And come back to center. Let's try that again. Breathe in. Exhale, twist. Inhale, come back to center. And exhale to the other side. Inhale to the center. Good. So you've just warmed up your spine by moving it in all the ways that the spine likes to move. And in addition to the spine, we also have to talk about a strong core. A strong core, and I don't mean just your six-pack. The core meaning that part of your body, that whole box, and all the muscles and connective tissue in it. By keeping a strong core, well, actually when we talk about flexibility, we often forget about the other side of the coin, which is stability. And Kirk kind of touched on that a little bit, in that all of the muscles and connective tissue supports our structure, our spine, while our spine is also supporting our muscles. So they work together. And a strong core helps protect and support the lower back. How many have lower back issues? Eventually, I think all of us will feel that area. The strong core links our upper body to our lower body, and it makes our entire structure more balanced, stable, and efficient. So how can we know whether we have a strong core or not? How can we work on that? You can actually do that seated right where you are. So once again, sit forward in your chair. Scooch forward. As far forward in your chair as you can safely sit on your chair, keeping those sit bones good. Hold on to the sides of your chair if you like. Remember, the spine likes to grow tall. Let's grow it tall. And take that tall spine forward, just reaching the crown of your head forward. Good. Come back, sit tall. And this time we're going to lean back. Tall spine, lean back. Good. Come forward. And reach. Good. Coming back to sit tall. And as you reach back one more time, where do you feel the parts of your body working? Good. We're just exploring the body and see where we feel sensation and what parts. The body is so intelligent. And I think that's what I concluded from your whole talk, is how intelligent the body really is. It works beautifully without us even having to think about it. Our bodies know what muscles to gather to perform any particular task. And we tend to not acknowledge that until something is wrong. And then we wind up in your office. So a strong core is critical to balance, to flexibility, and to keeping our bodies moving. So balance does require flexibility. Remember, that's the ability to easily bend without breaking. And we all are aware that our balance declines as we age. Falling, we found out, can be devastating both physically and mentally. And that's why we need to continue to work on challenging ourselves, and I love that, and our ability to balance. So one of the areas that we work on in yoga that contributes to balance that I feel like I was totally unaware of until I had an issue, and that's the ankles. So once again, sit sweet. Can you just lift one knee and flex that foot? So that means press the heel down and draw the toe up towards your knee. And then begin to circle that ankle. How slow can you circle that ankle in both directions? And then point and flex and point and flex and set that foot down. And let's try the other foot. And circle that ankle like a sloth. How slow can you move? What's going on in your ankle? Maybe it's a little stiff. We've been sitting for a while. Try the point and flex. And return that foot down. Now, you're welcome to not participate if you don't want to, but if you would like to try, let's stand up. We've been talking about proprioception. And wow, what an explanation. Basically, for me, proprioception, just knowing where your body is in space. So we're going to come to what we call in yoga, mountain pose. Feet are about hip width apart. Hopefully your toes are going straight ahead. And palms open actively to the front, arms extended, just gently, elbows soft. Now, what are your knees doing? Are your knees locked back? Let's soften our knees. Yeah, we're putting a little bounce in our step. Good. Can you hold that tall mountain, even lifting the crown of your head up? Good. And then begin to lean toward your toes. And then lean back towards your heels. And forward. Just a little swaying to and fro. Yeah, your whole body is a plank right now. Good. Beautiful. Just swaying and knowing where your body is in space helps us with balance. And right now, just the ankles are hinging. Good job. Have a seat. So, flexibility is not just stretching. I actually warn against just stretching alone. After all, none of us intends to audition for Circus du Soleil anytime soon. All we want to do is get down on the floor, play with the grandkids, or work in the garden, or feel less stiff when we wake up, or be able to reach the top shelf without pain. So let's call it functional flexibility, because it's less about putting your foot behind your head, but more about performing daily tasks. So there you have it. The physical need of flexibility for aging gracefully can be boiled down to these four: maintaining mobility of the spine, strengthening the core muscles, focus on your ability to balance and bringing our joints through the full range of motion to develop functional flexibility. I love a fresh start. Sometimes we all feel stuck. So if you want a quick, easy, super healthy way to douse that fire of inflammation in your body, get up and move. According to a recent study from the University of California, even a small amount of physical activity delivers a significant anti-inflammatory punch. And I might add, an overall good feeling. So, we end our yoga practices with a little shavasana. So I'll challenge you each to go home, and that's just a few minutes of rest and relaxation following any kind of workout that just allows your body to absorb and feel the benefits of all the moving that you've done today. So, due to lack of time, we actually will have to forego the relaxation part of it, but we end our practice by sitting tall and with a little meditation. So together, if you're able, bring the arms up high, breathe in, palms come together, hands come to the heart. And I'll leave you with these words from Isaiah 43:19. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. May we all be present to the new things God is doing in and around us today, this week, and the weeks to come. And we end with a simple word that simply means, the light in me sees and honors the light in each of you. Namaste. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Now I am much more mobile and safe than I am, like, at night
Mm-hmm.
in the house. Because my legs are so tired, and I'm just clumping around. Nothing graceful at all. I mean, just clumping, trying to maintain it all. What would you suggest to do to relieve that at night?
Well, usually my answer to most of those questions are come to yoga. And that's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. You go, girl. Good for you.
Only 5 days a week.
Only 5 days a week. And then sometimes after you've worked out, a little stretching might help because you've done your strengthening and you're balancing it with a little more stretching, and that could possibly help. But I don't really offer solutions because in yoga we believe that yoga works to bring the body back into
I
balance.
just wondered if one of these things that we did might help my legs.
Try it. Absolutely. It certainly can't hurt as long as you stay safe. And that is important. So are there any more comments, questions? We offer yoga classes here at First Presbyterian Church on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. And I will let you know that my job as a yoga instructor is simply to encourage you to stay active and to move your body and even challenge.
Do any of them have old people in them, or they mostly?
Well,
They all do.
that's all relative. And since I'm 71 years old and I'm teaching, yeah, if I can do it, anybody can. And I will tell you that if you can breathe, you can do yoga.
I wish you had an old people
Well,
Hilda, the Tuesday night class, we have an 85-year-old in there that does a great
now, the difference, I will just give a description of the classes real quick if you
Sure,
want
absolutely.
me to. Monday mornings and Wednesday mornings, we have what we call supported yoga classes. And I call it supported yoga, not chair yoga. A lot of what we did today is what we do on Monday and Wednesday mornings. We do a little more in the way of balance, a little more in the way of warming up, and we do a lot of breathing exercises. The breath and controlling the breath is vital to flexibility. Those classes are from 9 till 10:30 in the Welcome Center, Monday and Wednesday mornings. It is open to the public. The classes are free. It's a donation-based. Tuesday nights in the Family Life Center gym, we have Yoga 1. And that class is done on the floor, and we have mats. So if you enjoy doing a floor class, we do floor, seated, standing. It's a little more challenging than the Monday morning, Wednesday morning classes.
So are you saying that you come to Monday and Wednesday, or can you just come to one of those classes? Or what are you saying?
We have people that come to both. We have people that can only come to one or the other. And it's drop-in. It doesn't matter. If you've never heard of the word yoga before, you're welcome to come and join us, and come when you can. A regular yoga practice does prove beneficial, though. On Wednesdays, we add weights, and weights are always optional. But we do have 1, 2, 3 pound weights that we use along with our yoga practice. We're always trying to build our bones. Any other questions? I'd love to see you come to class. The Tuesday night class is from 5:45 till 7:15. So most of my classes are about an hour and a half.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
2 excellent, outstanding presentations. Thank you both, Kurt and Kathy, for that. And we encourage you to come to part 2, which will focus on nutrition. Angela Reeves will be talking about healthy eating next week, same time. So have a great week. Thank you.